After 7 years of marriage and 6 years of trying to conceive, I was finally pregnant. I couldn't wait to tell my husband, Ethan. But before I could utter a word, I was met with divorce papers. Olivia, let's get a divorce. Luna. She's 6 months pregnant, and it's mine. It hit me like a physical blow, and the words, I'm pregnant, caught in my throat, impossible to voice. I sat stunned on the sofa, my hand in my pocket, my fingers unconsciously clutching the unused pregnancy test. Ethan sat beside me, wiping a hand across his face. I'm sorry, Olivia, but I was cornered. Everyone was pressuring me, and I'm genuinely exhausted. I also want a child of my own. After processing Ethan's words, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Since we got married, Martha had been relentlessly pressuring us for grandchildren. We both wanted a child, so we started trying to conceive, and that stretched into 6 years. We'd been to the hospital countless times, had countless tests, and the results always came back perfectly fine. We were always told, relax, manage your stress, it will happen. Now, I was finally going to be a mother, but Ethan was going to be someone else's father. When did you and Luna get together? I asked, my voice hoarse. I knew Luna, she was Ethan's graduate student. A young, talented professor was bound to attract the admiring glances of ambitious young women. It was an accident. I didn't expect her to get pregnant on the first try. His voice was heavy, and his expression wasn't good, as if this wasn't a happy occasion at all. He took a long, deep breath and exhaled heavily. Maybe this is fate. Olivia, I love you. But I really want a child. A wave of intense nausea washed over me. I couldn't tell if it was morning sickness or if Ethan's words had triggered it. I looked at him coldly and said, Ethan, I truly despise you. Even if you'd asked for a divorce first, and then gotten Luna pregnant, I wouldn't feel this disgusted. He clasped his hands, burying his head in his arms for a moment before looking up, his eyes bloodshot. Olivia, the child needs a legitimate father. I had no choice. Just as I was about to unleash a torrent of anger, Ethan's phone rang. He listened patiently for a moment, then said calmly, don't worry, I'll be there soon. It was Luna calling. Ethan turned to me. Take a look at the divorce agreement. We can discuss any demands you have. Luna's stomach isn't feeling well, so I need to go check on her. Without waiting for my reply, he walked straight out of the house. At midnight, I lay in bed, wide awake, unable to stop myself from replaying the 6 years after I married Ethan. Because I hadn't conceived, Martha had strong objections to me. She even told Ethan to divorce a barren, useless woman like me right to my face. Our mother-in-law-daughter-in-law relationship had hit rock bottom. Ethan, however, had always stood by me, even renting an apartment outside to keep Martha away from our lives. But was also a dutiful son. His father had passed away young, and Martha had raised him alone in a small rural town. He couldn't sever ties with her, so even if I didn't go, he would often visit her. Somewhere along the line, Martha and his meddling aunts and relatives' constant pressuring for grandchildren had gotten to him, turning into a deep-seated obsession. He had actually fathered a child with someone else. All the past events flashed through my mind, scene by scene. My heart clenched painfully, and I found it hard to breathe. The clock on the wall ticked on, and I don't know when I finally fell asleep. The next morning, I was shocked to find a trace of blood beneath me. Blood rushed to my head, and I panicked. I immediately booked an online appointment and rushed to the hospital. This was the child I had worked so hard for, longed for with all my heart. Even if he was born without a father, I wanted to deliver him safely and give him double the love. The doctor said I showed signs of a threatened miscarriage and told me to get a blood test for HCG and progesterone levels. I walked out, clutching the blood test results, my heart heavy. As I was about to take the escalator upstairs, I saw Ethan and Martha, each supporting a visibly pregnant woman, Luna. Ethan looked up, saw me, and froze for a moment. Martha, upon seeing me, rolled her eyes dramatically. Barren is barren. No matter how many doctors you see, you'll still be barren. It was always like this. The moment she saw me, she'd spew hateful words. She probably thought I was there for infertility treatment, but she didn't know that infertility clinics were in the reproductive medicine department, not obstetrics and gynecology. Ethan frowned upon hearing her and quietly told Martha to take Luna to wait in line. Martha scoffed, then carefully guided the woman beside her into the department. Luna kept her head down the whole time, seemingly afraid to look at me. After all, I used to be her Olivia. Ethan walked up to me, his face filled with concern. What's wrong with you? Why are you at the hospital? I gave a cold laugh. This man was surprisingly contradictory. carefully protecting his pregnant mistress while still showing lingering concern for his soon-to-be ex-wife. I wasn't keen on telling him about my pregnancy, so I simply replied, nothing much. Just really bad period cramps, here to get some painkillers. As soon as I finished speaking, I walked past him and went upstairs, ignoring his gaze lingering behind me. After the blood draw, I sat on a chair on the first floor, waiting for the results. I gently stroked my lower abdomen with one hand, continuously encouraging the unborn child. Not long after, Ethan and the other two also arrived on the first floor. Luna's prenatal checkup was probably finished. Ethan saw me again. Just then, Luna needed to use the restroom, and Martha went with her. Ethan then walked over and sat beside me. Olivia, why are you still here? Are you LL feeling unwell? No, just getting some additional tests done. He nodded, was silent for a moment, then continued, what have you thought about the divorce? The divorce agreement. Ethan, I interrupted him, I agree to the divorce. However, I want to amend the agreement. I get 80% of the assets, you get 20. If you agree, we can go to the county's office tomorrow. He looked at me, his face grim, and after a long moment, nodded. Just then, Luna emerged from the restroom. He quickly said, see you tomorrow, and left with Martha, supporting Luna. Thankfully, all the blood test values were good. The bleeding was likely caused by too much emotional distress the previous night. I called Henry and Eleanor to tell them about my pregnancy and the divorce. I declined their offer to come over and cooked myself a nutritious dinner. Before going to bed, I looked at the message Ethan had sent. Olivia, I'm sorry. I truly love Ethan, enough to get pregnant for him, no matter the cost. What happens to me isn't important, but the child can't be born without proper recognition or status. Ethan loves this child very much too. Since you haven't conceived in 6 years, please divorce Ethan. Luna must have taken Ethan's phone. I couldn't help but recall Luna. Among that group of students, she was the most noticeable. She was very beautiful, but came from a difficult background and lacked love since childhood. I had asked Ethan to pay extra attention to her. I never expected that I would end up shooting myself in the foot. My mood didn't fluctuate much. I simply replied quickly, Ethan is all yours. Just tell him not to be late tomorrow. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep early. The next day, Ethan and I successfully completed the divorce procedures, entering a mandatory waiting period for divorce finalization. Are you still feeling unwell? Are you going home? Do you want me to drive you? Perhaps unable to bear the silence, Ethan bombarded me with 3 questions. I just shook my head and said nothing. Last night, Luna took my phone and sent you those messages. I didn't expect her to bother you. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I ran my fingers through my hair, pushing it back. It doesn't matter. It's fine. You two are quite a match. I wish you both happiness. He frowned slightly, as if my blessing wasn't what he wanted to hear. I stepped past him and drove home, leaving him with his unreadable gaze. I resigned from my job, and for the entire next month, I focused on recuperating. Thankfully, the little one in my belly was very cooperative. I could eat and sleep well, and didn't experience severe morning sickness. A month passed quickly. Ethan hadn't bothered me, and selling the house was going smoothly. As soon as I woke up, I received a message from the agent saying a buyer wanted to see the house that afternoon. After replying, I got ready and went to the county's office. Olivia, long time no see. Ethan seemed a little happy to see me. He looked thin and haggard, as if the past month hadn't been easy for him. I nodded at him, acknowledging his greeting. Let's go get the divorce certificate. I'm in a bit of a hurry, I said calmly. Throughout the process, Ethan seemed to hesitate, as if he was desperately searching for a topic of conversation but couldn't find the words. Once the certificate was in hand, as we were about to part ways, Ethan finally grabbed my arm. Olivia, you really must take care of yourself from now on. There was a subtle hint of reluctance in his tone. I looked at him, gently removed his hand, and replied faintly, I will. The night he proposed divorce, I had already completely let go of our past. This past month, I had meticulously peeled away any lingering feelings until nothing remained. I had experienced 10 years of courtship and 7 years of marriage. Even if the ending wasn't beautiful, I had no regrets. From now on, we would simply go our separate ways and find our own happiness. That afternoon, I warmly welcomed the buyers who came to see the house, a very refined couple. They were quite pleased with my house, but just as we were about to sign the contract, an uninvited guest showed up. Olivia, what are you doing bringing all these people to my son's house? I'm telling you, you need to move out, immediately. That familiar loud voice belonged to Martha. My brows furrowed tightly. We had lived separate lives for several years now, and the moment I got divorced, she showed up at my door. Didn't Ethan tell you that this house was given to me? Hearing my words, Martha's voice abruptly rose several octaves. What nonsense are you talking? My son bought this house, how could it be yours? Don't think I don't know, you just want to cling to the house and not move out. My son is soft-hearted for not kicking you out, but I'm not that easy to deal with. You pack up and move out today. This house is for Luna and my grandson. Her shrill voice made everyone frown, and even the agent couldn't stand it, stepping forward to mediate. Ma'am, isn't there some misunderstanding? This house is indeed Ms. Olivia's. Her name is on the deed, she has the right to dispose of it. She waved her hand impatiently, her voice growing even louder. I don't care. You're all helping this woman, don't try to fool me. She stormed up to me, jabbing her fingertip repeatedly into my shoulder, making me stumble backwards step by step. You disgraceful woman, you're barren and you hogged my son for 6 years. Good thing my son divorced you, or I don't know how much longer you would have ruined my family. Be smart and get out now, don't make me call someone to throw you out. I angrily swatted away her jabbing hand and snapped, keep your hands to yourself. This action suddenly enraged her. Her eyes widened, and her face became contorted with fury. She shoved me hard with both hands, and caught off guard by the force, I fell backward onto the ground. In an instant, my mind went blank, my belly tightened, and cold sweat broke out on my forehead. What kind of nobody are you, daring to shout at me? Martha was still cursing and yelling in front of me, but I was so panicked I couldn't hear a thing. Miss Olivia, are you all right? My face must have been too pale, as the lady among the buyers immediately came forward to ask if I was okay. I grabbed her wrist, trembling. Please, take me to the hospital, or call an ambulance. I'm pregnant. I repeated it frantically, lost in a daze. The lady's face changed dramatically. She immediately had her husband carry me to their car, while the agent, pulling Martha who was still ranting, rushed us all to the hospital. The fall had caused bleeding again. The doctor performed a series of examinations. Thankfully, the fetal heartbeat was still present, and the baby was fine for now, but for safety, they admitted me for observation. It wasn't until the doctor told me for the 3rd time, everything's fine, just rest, that I truly breathed a sigh of relief. I was admitted to the most expensive private hospital room. At this point, I utterly detested Martha, and by extension, Ethan. Martha tried to escape halfway through, but the buyers kept an eye on her, preventing her from leaving, and she continued muttering curses. Only when Ethan rushed into the room did she start wailing loudly, Son, you're finally here. Look at the kind of woman you married, she bullies this old woman like me. Ethan, ignoring his wailing Martha, stared at me with bloodshot eyes, speechless for a long moment. Then he asked hoarsely, Olivia, you're pregnant? Yes, I replied irritably. Ethan's face changed from red to green, finally turning ashen. He staggered forward a few steps, looking as if he couldn't walk steadily. You're pregnant. Why didn't you tell me? His emotions were spiraling out of control, as if this was something he couldn't possibly accept. I frowned deeply. Tell you? What good would telling you do? Would it mean you hadn't cheated? Would it mean Luna wasn't pregnant? Faced with my barrage of questions, Ethan's mouth hung slightly open, unable to speak. Martha loudly interjected from the side, Son, don't believe this woman. She couldn't get pregnant for 6 years, so how could she suddenly be pregnant at this critical moment? Who knows whose baby is in her belly? I took a few deep breaths, trying to calm my agitated mood, and spoke to Ethan as calmly as possible. Martha pushed me, causing a threatened miscarriage. You'll be paying for this hospital stay. The words had barely left my lips when Martha started stamping her feet in agitation. Why? You're just trying to extort money. I haven't even accused you of faking an injury yet. Ethan couldn't take it anymore. He turned and yelled at Martha, Mom, can you please stop talking? Will you just go home first? His voice was so loud it made several people outside the room stop and peer in. Martha was stunned by his shouting. After a moment, she reluctantly turned, rolled her eyes at me, and grumbling, walked out. The agent and buyers, seeing that the person in charge had arrived, gradually excused themselves. Suddenly, only the two of us remained in the hospital room. Ethan's hands were clenched tightly into fists, his knuckles taut, his eyes even redder than before. I felt like laughing. We were already divorced. Who was he putting on this guilty act for? How are you feeling? The baby. Is it okay? He spoke, his voice trembling. There's nothing serious. I called you here for no other reason than to hold you responsible for Martha pushing me. Once the medical bills are paid, you can leave. I replied coldly. By association, I now felt nothing but pure disgust for Ethan. I'm sorry, I didn't expect Martha to. Don't say anything else. I don't want to see you right now, I sharply interrupted Ethan. He stood in silence, deep remorse still in his eyes, and perhaps a hint of regret. Just as I was about to dismiss him again, he said hoarsely, "You rest first. I'll go pay the bill." He slowly walked out of the room. Less than 5 minutes after Ethan left, a boisterous figure burst in, carrying a pile of various tonics and supplements. "Are you okay? What happened? What did the doctor say? Is the baby all right?" It was my childhood best friend, Chloe. In my current state, I really needed some help. Henry and Eleanor were in a nearby city and couldn't get here quickly, so since Chloe worked here, I could only ask her to assist me. Under her gaze, which had scanned me at least 10 times, I chuckled and replied, "I'm fine, don't worry. I just need some rest." Chloe let out a long breath, patting her chest heavily. "Oh my goodness, you scared me to death." I briefly explained what happened. She listened, cursing all the while, using every colorful insult she knew, thoroughly lambasting Ethan and Martha. Before she finished speaking, footsteps approached the door. Ethan, having paid the bill, came in with a pile of fruit. He saw Chloe and froze for a moment. Chloe, however, immediately sprang up and started yelling at Ethan, "You damn heartless bastard, how dare you show your face here? I told you to get lost before, are you deaf? Try to take another step, and I'll skin you alive." Ethan's expression was grim. He mumbled, "I just wanted to take care of Olivia." "You don't need to take care of me, you need to take care of Luna, who's 7 months pregnant. Your presence here only bothers me," I replied coldly. Ethan met my gaze, which held no kindness. His mouth opened and closed, hesitating for a long while, before he finally lowered his head and said, "All right, I'll go. It's good that Chloe is here. You get some good rest." With that, amid Chloe's continuing curses, he slowly dragged himself out. To this day, I find Ethan incredibly contradictory. Perhaps, as he said, he still loved me, but that love didn't withstand 6 years of pressuring for grandchildren, nor the torment of being childless. So, he loved me while having an affair. Only when Luna's belly grew big, when he was forced to make a choice, did he decide to cut me loose. Did he love Luna? I didn't know, but what was certain was that he loved the child in Luna's womb. I shook my head, clearing away these distracting thoughts, and closed my eyes to rest. Over the next few days, Ethan came to the hospital every day, but Chloe always chased him away. As for the house, despite the incident, the buyers still decided to purchase it, and we signed the contract soon after. I was on an 4 drip for a few days at the hospital. My Hicks contraction stopped, and the bleeding ceased. The baby in my belly seemed to have heard my prayers, growing healthily. With the doctor's permission, I was discharged from the hospital. Accompanied by Chloe, I arranged for people to pack up all my important belongings and ship them back home. Then, feeling lighthearted, I bid farewell to the city and returned to my hometown. Henry was already waiting for me at the bus station. When I got home, a steaming hot meal was ready on the table. Henry furiously cursed Ethan, while Eleanor, with tears in her eyes, stroked my cheek and choked out that I had suffered so much. I hugged them tightly, and my heart suddenly found peace. All the grievances I had endured vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of warmth. I settled down at home. In my free time, I wrote novels and actually developed a decent side gig. After realizing I was gone, Ethan tried to contact me many times. Annoyed beyond measure, I blocked all his contact information. He must have guessed where I was, and seemed to have accepted everything, as he never bothered me again. Days turned into weeks. The baby supplies at home steadily increased, and the spare bedroom was transformed into a nursery. Chloe had long since claimed the godmother spot. Every now and then, she'd come to visit, laden with bags, and had already bought a mountain of baby toys. In the blink of an eye, I was 6 months pregnant. The baby is developing very well, perfectly healthy, and quite active. Little hands are scratching its face. The doctor rolled the probe across my belly. Watching the baby's image on the screen, a feeling of happiness swelled in my heart. After the 4D ultrasound was done, Henry and Eleanor couldn't stop smiling as they held the report. "Hey, look at that nose, it really looks like Olivia's. It must be a boy. With such a delicate look, I'd say it's a girl." I smiled, interrupting Henry and Eleanor. "Boy or girl, both are good. I'll love them either way." Eleanor's eyes crinkled in a smile. "That's right. They're our little treasure." Looking at the 4D ultrasound report, I couldn't contain my joy, so I took a picture and shared it as a social media post. The very next day, I saw a familiar figure downstairs by my front door, Ethan. He extinguished the cigarette in his hand, patted his clothes to air out the smoke, then slowly walked up to me and said hoarsely, "Olivia, can we talk?" I sat in a cafe not far from my house, scanning the man in front of me. Ethan's eyes were sunken, his figure considerably thinner, and the haggardness on his face was impossible to hide. He clearly wasn't doing well. He stared at me blankly, his eyes slightly red. He was the one who suggested talking, yet he remained silent for a long time. After a while, I broke the silence. "Luna must have given birth, right? Congratulations on becoming a father. Is it a boy or a girl?" My tone was calm, as if I were talking to an ordinary friend. Ethan snapped back to reality, then lowered his eyes and said heavily, "The baby is gone." I was stunned. The family cherished that child so much, how could it be gone? What happened? The fetus was too large for a natural birth. When they had to switch from vaginal delivery to C-section, Martha stopped them from signing the consent form. The baby suffered severe oxygen deprivation and couldn't be saved. Ethan's voice was filled with sorrow, and he buried his head deeply in his arms. I was speechless. Such a short sentence, yet the events it described replayed in my mind like a vivid scene. I knew Martha too well. It was undoubtedly the old world belief that naturally born babies were smarter. Martha stubbornly believed all women could have natural births. She must have obstinately held Ethan's hand, preventing him from signing, perhaps even throwing a tantrum on the floor, delaying the crucial time and leading to the baby's death. I could even guess that she wouldn't feel it was her fault at all. Instead, she would blame the hospital entirely, accusing them of incompetence. I sighed. Ethan's muffled voice broke the silence. "I transferred the baby to the biggest hospital. He stayed there for over a week, and they tried everything, but he still didn't make it." Then came faint sobs. I couldn't describe the feeling in my heart, half dread, half pity. The dread was that if I hadn't divorced Ethan, such a tragedy might have befallen me. The pity was that even though Ethan cheated, harm shouldn't come to an innocent child. As an expectant mother, hearing about this made me feel even more heartache for the baby. I didn't know how to respond, only managing to utter 2 words, "I'm sorry for your loss." Ethan wiped away his tears, roughly ran a hand over his face, and looked up at me. "Olivia, I've been filled with regret lately. I betrayed you, did so many wrong things, all just to have a child. Perhaps even heaven thought I was too much, and wouldn't grant me this child. Yesterday, a friend sent me a screenshot of your social media post, and suddenly, I missed you terribly. I know you don't want to see me, and I have no right to be in front of you, but I can't control it. I really wanted to see you again." His gaze dropped to my swollen abdomen, and our baby. I was silent for a moment. Ethan's words made me feel a physiological discomfort. While I felt great sympathy for the baby who had died, I still had no feelings whatsoever for Ethan. I only agreed to talk to him this time because I thought it was something urgent. "You've seen me now. Is there anything else?" My tone instantly turned cold. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took a deep breath, closed his eyes tightly as if gathering immense courage, and said, "Olivia, I know I made a huge mistake. If I could turn over a new leaf, could we?" "Ethan," I interrupted him coldly, "don't say such foolish things again. If there's nothing else, let's leave it at that for today. I'm going." I picked up my cup, took a sip of hot water, and stood up to leave. Ethan hurriedly grabbed my sleeve, his expression a little panicked. "I'm sorry, pretend I didn't say it." I raised my eyes, and he continued, Could I still come to see you in the future?" I brushed his hand away and shook my head. "It's best not to. Your wife probably needs your care right now." "I didn't marry Luna," Ethan quickly added. I was surprised again, looking at him with a complex expression. It suddenly dawned on me that this man talked endlessly about the child, never once mentioning Luna, as if she were merely a tool for him to have a baby. He had never had any feelings for Luna. An inexplicable wave of nausea washed over me, followed by a chill. I desperately wanted to get away from this man. "Regardless, don't come looking for me again." Under his intensely reluctant gaze, I rose and left the cafe. In the days that followed, I became even more cautious. My prenatal checkups went smoothly. My belly grew heavier, and I reduced the number of times I went out. After that meeting, I still saw Ethan's figure downstairs for the first few days, but after a certain day, he disappeared. I heard news about the Lynn family again from Eleanor. They spent all their savings, but the baby still couldn't be saved. And even tried to sue the hospital. How could that be the hospital's fault? They wouldn't even listen to her. Now they've lost both their money and their child. Then, Martha started blaming Luna, saying she was useless, couldn't even give birth to a child, and killed her grandson. I heard Luna wasn't even given a single decent meal during her postpartum recovery period, and then she developed, postpartum depression. Martha got worse, cursing Luna every single day, so loudly everyone upstairs and downstairs could hear. Finally, Luna couldn't take it anymore. She stabbed Martha to death, and then jumped from the building herself. With such a huge scandal, Ethan couldn't keep his job. The university fired him directly. If you ask me, that's just karma for the Lynn family. Eleanor spoke on, rambling. I scrolled through my phone. The incident was a huge scandal, and most of the local social media feeds were filled with discussions about it. I felt a pang of melancholy. Karma, a cycle of cause and effect. People often reap what they sow. Luna, who knowingly became a mistress, not only failed to find the love she sought but was also subjected to malicious treatment, ultimately jumping to her death. Martha was bitter and unscrupulous, desperately wanting a grandson. She ended up squandering all their family's wealth, still couldn't keep the heir, and died by the knife herself. Ethan was now utterly ruined and had lost everything. It was just a pity for that child. He had no right to choose his parents, only had time to glimpse this world briefly before leaving it just as quickly. I sighed softly, placing a hand over my smooth belly. Baby, no matter what, Mama will make sure you come into this world healthy and grow up happy. I waited safely at home for the birth, until 39 weeks when the little one finally made its move. I was in labor for a full 28 hours, enduring contractions and dilation that felt like a truck repeatedly running over my lower abdomen, until I finally gave by. RTH to my child. It was a beautiful daughter. A clear cry brought forth an endless stream of tears from my eyes. After leaving the delivery room, I lay in a private hospital room. Henry and Eleanor happily cooed at the little one, while Chloe sat beside me, peeling an apple. I looked at my pink, soft daughter in the bassinet and smiled contentedly. During my few days in the hospital, Eleanor stayed with me, Henry brought meals, and Chloe also took a few days off to be by my side. The next day, when Chloe arrived at the hospital, she and Eleanor whispered something to each other, their expressions not looking good. I felt a bit puzzled. What's wrong? Did something happen? They exchanged glances. Eleanor stammered, well, that person, Ethan, has been standing at the entrance of the hospital ward for 2 days now. Yesterday I didn't let him in, and he came again today. We can't make him leave, he's begging to see you. Chloe immediately chimed in, Olivia, don't you worry. I'll go out and chase him away again right now. If he doesn't leave, I'll call the police. I frowned. I hadn't wanted to see Ethan, but then I reconsidered. If I kept refusing to see him, I worried he would relentlessly follow me, stubbornly begging for a meeting, making it impossible to live in peace. I called out to Chloe, who was already at the door. Never mind, let him in. Chloe looked at me with immediate surprise. Are you serious? I nodded. Don't worry, you two are here. He won't do anything. When walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. His back was hunched, his face sallow, and his eyes were dark and hollow, as if he hadn't slept properly in a very long time. He looked nothing like the dignified professor he once was. His hand clung to the bassinet, his cloudy eyes fixed on the tiny person inside, his body trembling almost imperceptibly. Chloe and Eleanor stood side by side, arms crossed, glaring intently at the man. Ethan stretched out a trembling hand, wanting to touch Utter's face, but stopped halfway. He seemed to think his hand was too dirty, so he drew it back, disheartened, and wiped it on his clothes. Baby, has she been named? His voice was trembling violently too. Yes, she's named Lily. He had no reaction to the child having my surname, only murmuring, Lily is good. Safe and sound. He watched the baby for a while longer, then stood up, turning to me, a glimmer of tears in the corner of his eyes. Olivia, how is your health? Very good. I'm recovering well. After I spoke, Ethan didn't respond. An unnameable silence filled the room, making Chloe roll her eyes. After a moment, Ethan clenched his fist, then slowly relaxed it. In the future, can I still see Lily? My frown deepened. Ethan, while you technically have visitation rights, if you're asking me directly, my answer is that it's best not to. Because seeing you affects my mood. I said it bluntly, and Ethan's body visibly stiffened. He took several heavy breaths, clenched his hands, then relaxed them again, and after a moment, he lowered his gaze and said, I understand. Before leaving, he looked at Lily again. He watched her for a long time, as if trying to engrave her image into his memory. Only when I was already impatiently about to usher him out did he slowly and dejectedly drag himself toward the door. With one foot out of the room, he said, his back to me, "Olivia, I will make it up to you." As his voice faded, he left. It wasn't long before I understood what he meant by that. After my postpartum recovery period, I mysteriously received an electronic transfer of $10,000 in my bank account. Every month after that, I would receive the same amount. This was probably Ethan's way of making amends. Lily slowly grew up, nurtured by the whole family. From a tiny bundle the size of an arm, she grew into a little girl who babbled and called for mama. Although she didn't have a father, she was never short on love. She had maternal grandparents who adored her, a godmother who would take her out to play wildly every time she visited, and me, always by her side. Sometimes, she would ask where her dad was. I would simply reply, "Mama doesn't like daddy much, so he's very far away." I asked her, "Are you sad not to have a dad?" She would say in her sweet, childish voice, "No, not sad. I have mama," and that's enough. Then she would pounce on me for a kiss. At such moments, I would hold her tight and kiss the soft crown of her head. Ethan never directly appeared before me again. Most of the time, when I took Lily out on weekends, he would watch from a distance. Only when I returned home would he quietly leave. Since he wasn't disturbing me, I didn't chase him away. The wheels of time slowly rolled forward. I didn't go back to work. Instead, I developed my writing side gig into my main profession, which gave me more time to be involved in Lily's upbringing. 5 years flew by in a flash. Tomorrow was Lily's birthday. I was on my way to order a cake when a slender figure stopped me on the street. It was Ethan. I was surprised by his appearance. He was incredibly thin, practically skin and bones, his hands dry and gnarled like tree branches. He looked utterly destitute, barely human. He stopped me, nervously twisting the faded corner of his shirt, his gaze fixed on the ground. He pleaded, "Olivia, tomorrow is Lily's birthday. Could I celebrate with you too?" I was displeased. "If I recall correctly," I said, "I've already told you I don't really want you showing up in front of us." Ethan's back hunched even further. "I don't have long to live." I froze. He let out a bitter laugh, almost a self-deprecating scoff. "Stomach cancer, late stage. Guess this is my karma." I remained silent, unsure how to respond. He looked into my eyes, his voice dropping even lower. "I know I've made incredible mistakes in this life, losing my wife and child, utterly ruined and lost everything. There won't even be anyone to claim my body after I die, which is why I signed the body donation agreement. After I die, my body will be sent to the medical school to become an anatomical donor. My last wish, while I'm still alive, is to see you again and celebrate Lily's birthday together." His voice caught, a slight sob. "Olivia, can you agree to this?" My mind was a mess. On one hand, I didn't want Olivia to meet this terrible father. On the other, his decision to donate his body in his dying days, this final request of his life, made it hard for me to refuse. After a moment, I slowly nodded. At noon on Lily's birthday, I brought her to the agreed-upon restaurant. Ethan arrived a short while later. He wore a relatively clean and tidy outfit, and his stubble was neatly trimmed, making him appear less haggard. It was clear he took this meeting seriously. He carried an exquisitely wrapped gift box and straightened his back, sitting across from us. "Mommy, who is that?" Lily had never seen him before and asked me, blinking her confused eyes. Before I could speak, Ethan quickly interjected, "I'm an old colleague of your mommy's, here on a business trip. You can just call me Uncle." My daughter sweetly called out, "Uncle." Ethan happily acknowledged her, handing the gift box to my daughter with both hands. I remained silent beside them, wondering why he lied to Lily. Perhaps, like me, he didn't want Lily to know she had an utterly terrible father. The birthday celebration went quite harmoniously. I brought out the cake, and Lily cheerfully made a wish, cut the cake, and then generously served Ethan a slice too. Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he took the plate. As ate her cake, she prattled on about the friends she'd made at preschool, how much her teacher praised her, and what delicious food her maternal grandparents had made yesterday. These were all simple, ordinary, yet incredibly happy things. Ethan listened happily at first, but at some point, tears began streaming down his face. His agreeing murmurs turned into soft sobs, and he had to reach for a tissue to wipe away the tears. "Uncle, why are you crying? Did something sad happen?" Lily asked, a little confused and concerned. It's nothing. Ethan roughly wiped his face. "It's all right, Uncle is just very happy, exceptionally happy." His tears didn't stop. In fact, his sobs grew heavier, almost spiraling out of control. I patted my daughter's head. Lily, we've finished eating. It's time to go. My daughter dutifully nodded, stood up with me, and as she passed Ethan, she offered him a tissue. Uncle, don't cry. When you're happy, you're supposed to smile. I just made a wish that everyone I know will have everything go their way. I'm so good, so my wish is sure to come true. So you'll definitely be healthy and happy from now on. Bye-bye. My daughter waved her chubby hand and skipped out with me. I didn't acknowledge the louder sobs behind me and turned to leave. After that, I never saw Ethan again. The days rolled on, and on the bookshelf in my daughter's room, Ethan's gift sat quietly, a hand-carved wooden figurine that bore a striking resemblance to Lily as a newborn. Engraved on the back of the wooden figurine were 8 characters: "May and Lily find peace and joy, and may their blessings be abundant and long-lasting." Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.